is up, my Shadowverse scholars, and welcome back to another Enverse Academy video. So, in this section, we are talking about Heavencraft. Heavencraft is one of those decks where it's like, hey, I'm going to sit in the pilot seat, I'm going to control how this game goes, and I'm going to tell you what you can and can't do. And if you feel like you want to be big mommy and, cater to another deck, this isn't the deck. You're big Buffy, surprisingly, with all the things that you have. And you basically just have straight control of the deck, the game, excuse me. So let's go talk about what Heavencraft is supposed to do. So Heavencraft basically uses amulets, and amulets usually aren't that too good. Amulets are good, but in Heavencraft they are 10 times better because you can play them for one effect, and then you can either spend some play points and then engage them, and then you can do something else. So that's really what Heavencraft does. It plays off of amulets, and then they have some follower supports too. But another thing that Heavencraft is good for besides amulets is the removal aspect of it. There's tons of removal in this deck, and we can tell you what's good and bad about it in a second. Let's go ahead and do those pros and cons. So the pros and cons of Heavencraft is that it has solid control in terms of removal, of course. And then it actually has heal regen. Most decks have heal regen, but not as strong as Heavencraft. You'll be healing for either 5 or 10, or sometimes you can even heal for just 2. But, there's just lots and lots of health regen in this deck. There's a decent draw. I say decent draw, but it's really, really good in compared to D-Shift where, it's just, hey, I have an amulet on the field, it's going to sit on the field, and then at any point in the time, I can use my play points and I can draw X amount of cards. Now, the cons, on the other hand, is that it's slow, it's a grind, and that it has a turn cap. When I say that it has a turn cap, you get to turn 10. You get the max amount of play points you can get to 10. If you aren't winning by that turn, by turn 10, because you're going to get that far. It is a slow deck, you can get there because you're playing Heavencraft, and especially with all removal. You can get that far, but you can only get that far for so long. Meaning that when you get to turn 10, if you don't have that game-ending turn, or a game-ending follower, or game-ending play, and it gets stopped, then you're useless. You've used everything in the gas tank. It's kind of just like Abysscraft, but if you get into that late game and you don't have anything, yeah, it's up for you. You can sit there and play the amount of cards you want to, but it's not going to work out for you if you make the huge play on how the deck I'm talking about today. So let's talk about amulets. So if you don't know what amulets are, they are cards that sit on your field, and they will sit on your field until they have a specific ability for them being removed, or someone uses a card to remove the amulets for you. So let's look at Sacred Plea. So I can play Sacred Plea for 1 and then engage it and just, put this card into the cemetery and draw a card. Or I can pay 2 play points and I can put it in rest mode or engaged and put this card into your cemetery and then draw 2 cards. Death Sentence is a card that says specifically when it's played that it comes in engaged. But on your next turn, when it refreshes, you can engage it and put this card into your cemetery. You can select an enemy follower on the field and destroy it. Now, this next card, Hair of Illusions, is actually pretty good. So you can engage this card and put it into your cemetery and select the enemy follower on the field and engage it. So if they have a good card up and they're leaving it up like a ward, and they're like, hey, I'm gonna rest this like 7/2 ward as an example, but I can use Hair of Illusions to just engage it and then smack it with one of my guys that evolved this turn or something I've had on the field. But it also has the secondary ability that actually helps, is that you can engage it and then pay 10 play points to put this card into the cemetery, and you banish each follower on the field. So this is one of those effects that gets past Aura, and we're going to talk a lot about Aura today because this is one of the decks that has Aura and it's very strong, and people have a hard time dealing with it. So this is Hair of Illusions is one of the cards. When it doesn't select it doesn't say select each follower, it says banish each follower. So let's talk about the new cards that came out of set 2. These aren't all of them, but we're going to go down the line and talk about the new cards and see how strong they are. So we're talking about Alana's Prayer for the first card. This card isn't too popular right now in the fact that it's one of those archetypes that are like, hey, I'm going to heal and buff up my guys. But there's no way you're going to play Alana's Prayer and then, you know, see it in a good time where you're like, all right, I'm going to play a follower that heals me. But it's just such a big play, and it's so clunky, it doesn't feel too good. So let's go ahead and move on into the 5-cost amulet, Tribunal of Good and Evil, that when it comes into play, you select the enemy follower on the field and destroy it. So, you remember the pros and cons I was talking about? The pros, meaning that there's tons and tons of removal, and here's something along with it, besides the death sentence we talked about earlier. But it comes into the field and you destroy enemy follower, and then you can engage it and put it into your cemetery and draw a card. Now, for 5, this definitely feels weird. Cruel Priestess is one of those cards you can play on 4, I believe, and she can play a 5-cost amulet. So this is probably one of the cards that you're going to be looking at to play. It's not bad. It definitely falls in line with the removal aspect. But let's go ahead and move on to Beast Call Aria. So, Beast Call Aria is another new card that when she's played, you summon a Holy Falcon. A Holy Falcon is a 2/2 follower token that has Storm. So, right off the bat, you're swinging for 2 for paying 3. And then you can pay 2 to put this card into your cemetery and summon a Holy Tiger token. So, let's talk for a second. Beast Call Aria already plays a follower on play. So, the thing about amulets is they will sit on the field until you are ready to use them. So, that's what makes another fact of Heavencraft so good. So, if you play a 4/4 and you swing into my Holy Falcon, I'm going to tap 2 play points to play my Holy Tiger with Rush, and I'm going to swing it at that follower. So I'm going to have tons of removal so I can get to that late game. I'm not going to focus on you in these early 3, 4, 5 turns. I'm not worried about that. I'm worrying about clearing your followers off the field, making sure that I can rest easy, because the next follower you're going to play is going to hopefully have Summoning Sickness the first time I play it. So I'm going to control the board 100% of the time. So let's talk about another new card. We have Kaguya. So Kaguya also came out this set, and like I said before, it is straight removal. Alright, so let's read her. So for 5 play points, I can select an amulet that costs 3 play points or less in my hand and put it onto the field. When an amulet is put onto the field, you select an enemy follower on the field and deal it X damage. X equals the number of the amulet's cost. So, like an example, I play Kaguya, I have Death Sentence in my hand, Death Sentence comes out engaged, but it'll deal 3 damage to something. And then, anytime that I play an amulet on the field, after Kaguya is played, it's going to do that amount of damage. Unless you play Hair Evolutions, and then you're doing 0. But hey, we like those plays. Next, let's talk about the Evolve. So, on Evolve, you summon an Inferior Moon token that gives you your leader +3. And then whenever an amulet is put onto your field, you deal X damage, X equals the number of the amulet's cost. So an Inferior Moon is a 3-cost amulet that when this card is put onto your field, during that turn that it's played, Kaguya's cards with the name Kaguya don't take damage. So if I swing with Kaguya, my 5/5 into one of your 5/5 guys, as long as Inferior Moon's on play, none of my Kaguyas take damage. And it also fits into the fact that, you're playing 1 for just playing 5, and then you can pay 2 more to evolve her, and then you can play and you do 3 damage. So you're dealing a total of 6 damage for 7 play points in total. So that's not bad. And the fact that Kaguya can trade into things and then not die is very good. So it's it's more removal in herself, and it protects herself too. So you're probably wondering, hey Sparta, these are really high cost guys. What in the world? How am I playing these guys and not getting super punished? Well, let me tell you about a new card that just came out. So we have Enstatued Seraph. Okay, I know this is a wall of text, but bear with me, guys. So this card can be destroyed by abilities. At the start of your end phase, put a prayer counter on this card, and then if this has 4 prayer counters, put it into your cemetery, give your leader +10. And search your deck for up to 2 cards, and then put them into your EX area. Those cards cost 0 to play, guys. Alright, listen up. So, I'm gonna play Enstatued Seraph on 6. And then, that was all my points, but this is looking into a perfect world where Heavencraft does its job and removes a whole bunch of things from turns 1 to 5, and then your opponent's looking at you and they're like, alright, well, I'm going to probably play either a ward, or I'm going to play something that, something higher cost that, can't swing. So you should be at a good point where on your turn 6, You can play this down and then go ahead and get that 1 prayer counter and set up, that timer. As soon as this card comes out, that's when the timer starts. Because after you play in Statute Seraph, you can get a whole bunch of units. And that new card is Heavenly Aegis. So Heavenly Aegis is one of the new cards that's like an 8-drop. It's a huge boss monster. We love seeing a card that this big do so much, and he's very good. So he's an 8-drop follower with 8/8, and you can evolve him for 2, and you can also evolve him by discarding 3 cards in case you want to evolve him on the same turn that you play him. And he has Aura. Aura, one of the strongest abilities in the game. So his evolve is on evolve for the rest of this turn during each of your opponent's next turn. Which, with this wording makes me think that, hey, there's going to be a multiplayer section of Shadowverse, and, these skill text really makes me think of that. But during your opponent's next turn, the follower doesn't take damage. This card can be destroyed by abilities. So, you play this guy on the field, and he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere unless there's a card that has Bane on it, and you can swing at him. That's the only way you're getting rid of Heavenly Aegis, and that's only a couple of cards. Well, along with cards that don't target things. But they also have to do 10 damage. So let's talk about some good targets to play off of in Statute Seraph. So we have Kaguya, Dark Angel Olivia, Jeanne d'Arc, and Bahamut. So these are cards that are going to cost 0 in your EX area. And all of these cards generate value of some kind. So, Kaguya playing an amulet you probably already have in your hand because she costs 0 and it's free. Dark Angel Olivia for having the multitude of abilities that it's just so clutch. This is probably one of your prime targets if you haven't drawn Olivia yet. This is probably one of your prime targets. You can choose like 2 of the following. You can gain an evolution point for a Heavenly Aegis. You can give your leader +3 to heal any of the damage you took. You can draw a card, and your opponent can discard a card. So, her being so clutch, it's definitely good. Jeanne d'Arc, just for the fact of small removal, in case you want to play Heavenly Aegis, and then you Jeanne d'Arc to ping all the small guys. Then there's Bahamut, another big boss monster that costs 9. And, you destroy each follower on the field. And then you can evolve them and destroy each amulet. So let's talk about the removal. I know I've said removal a whole bunch of times, but bear with me. So we have Priest of Kujal that selects enemy follower with 3 defense or less on the field and banishes it. We have Jeanne d'Arc that deals 2 damage on to each follower on the field. We'll get back to her. We have Death Sentence that straight up just removes something, and then we have Themis' Decree that just destroys every follower on the field. So these are all the removal cards. Tons more. Especially if you take into the fact that we have neutral class removal, like Angelic Snipe and all that. This is very good. There's just tons of removal. So, speaking of removal, let's talk about Jeanne d'Arc. So Jeanne d'Arc deals 2 damage to each follower on the field. And then on her evolve, she deals 2 damage, and then she gives each follower on your field +2 defense. So, that paired up with Heavenly Aegis is actually ridiculous. Because the combo that I'm going to tell you in the game plan is just absurd. So, you play Kaguya, and you deal everything too. Against the aggressive matchup, it's very good, because their bodies aren't very big, so if they flooded the field with things that cost 2 or 1, then everything's gone. Now, the evolve is also pretty clutch too, because it can help in the mid game too. So when you evolve her, she deals an additional 2 damage to everything. And then she gives your guys +2. So the whole fact of stalling, where you can stall with Jeanne d'Arc. So you have a ward on the field on turn 3. You play Jeanne d'Arc. You deal 2 damage to everything. And then you keep that ward up, or you keep that ward down, and it survives. It's a small situation where it does survive. But it does survive. You can recover 2 defense to it, and it's a ward that stayed alive. But this is one of the clutch cards when it comes to removal, because I said that 5 is really the guideline for what the followers sit at. But if your follower is going to be swinging the first turn that comes out, or if it's a small body follower that generates you a card, they'll probably sit at 4. But the baseline is 5. So dealing 4 to everything definitely should clear the board whenever Jeanne d'Arc comes out. especially if you go second in your own turn 5, and you can play John Dark and deal 2 damage to everything. So let's talk about the game plan for Heavencraft. So Heavencraft is going to be doing what they usually do through turns 1 and 5. So they're going to be removing your guys. They're going to be playing amulets, gaining value through turns 1 through 5, and just do all the removal. And then as soon as you do in Statute Seraph, they're going to be like, alright, well, here's the clock. You're on DEFCON 5. Once we get to DEFCON 1, the game needs to end. And I'm telling you, the game's ending. So they're going to wait, and they're going to get plus 10 defense, so they're going to survive. They're going to get Heavenly Aegis, and then they're going to evolve, and they're going to use Guardian Sun. And if they don't have that combo in their hand, they're just going to search for it. So that's what makes Heavencraft so pretty good with consistency, because whatever you're missing, or whatever you're afraid of, you can just get it within Statute Seraph. So, for the rest of the turn, the card Heavenly Aegis isn't going to die. You're going to use Guardian Sun to give it ward, and then you're going to engage it to give it +2/+2. So it's going to be the 12/12 that has aura, ward, and can't be destroyed. So that's basically saying, hey, I'm going to survive this turn, and you're going to have to deal with it. So that next turn, they're going to swing at you for 12 if you don't have like a ward set up or anything. But this is also Heavencraft, and they have tons and tons of removal. So they are not going to you're not even going to worry about that. So that next turn, you're going to play John Dark, and you're going to wipe their board, and then you're going to swing 12 at them, and that should be game right there. So let's talk about the tech options for Heavencraft. So I would say that Bellringer is probably a staple in Heavencraft, just for the fact that it's ward, and it can draw you a card, and her Evo is just pretty clutch in the aggressive matchup. But let's talk about Erd. Erd is one of those cards that's not in every deck, but it also helps in the fact that you go against the mirror match with the fact that they put everything in the EX, and they have one turn where they're not using those cards. So you play Erd, and then you remove Heavenly Aegis or the Guardian Sun, which you most likely just remove the Heavenly Aegis. But you still have to worry about the fact that they probably should have another one in their hand or another one in their deck. And whatever you don't get rid of, that's still going to be fuel for them. Unless you end up playing 2 Erds in one turn. And then you can remove that combo. But moving forward, Erd is really a good card that helps in the mirror match. And moving forward, we'll go into Execution. Execution is just a staple against Sword. The fact that they just play an amulet that gives them +3/+3, and you can just execute it and remove it, or just destroying any follower. But with all the cards that you have in your basic base of the deck, there's going to be tons of removal. And Angelic Snipe, for the whole fact of aggro matchups, dealing 2 to something, you know what it is. So let's talk about the good and bad matchups. So the good matchups are in form of aggro and the mid-range. That being Abysscraft, you're just going to snipe every single body that they have. It's at 2 defense, and they manage to flood the board. You're just going to John Dark and kill everything. Now, in terms of the Abyss matchup, you do have to worry about the Ghost version. The Ghost version being, just Phantom Howls, a whole bunch of 1/1 swinging at you. But you should be able to recover at least 2 of those attacks with your spells and whatnot. Now, Swordcraft is really a good matchup for you because everything you do, you just remove. And they can generate a field pretty easily, but you can wipe it just as easy with 1 card. And that's what makes it so good, is because these boards basically just get wiped, and then they have to start all over again, and it feels really bad because they have to put so much energy into generating their board, and you say, hey, look, it's gone. Now let's talk about the bad matchups on the other hand. So these are the form of the control decks. So in the form of bad matchups, Forcecraft is pretty bad when it comes to Rose Queen because you're going to get burned. They don't really care about the Heavenly Aegis combo. They're straight up saying, alright, I'm going to do my damage to you. Whatever damage I did to you, I'm just going to make up for it in burn damage. And that's pretty good. In the form of Runecraft, it can be Earthright from them just straight burning you again. And then it can be D-Shift because they hit they don't really play too many cards, so they're not worried about it. They have a 1-kill combo. And if they stop the turn where you're like, all right, I don't have any play points because I did 6 for Statue Seraph. They're like, all right, well, turn 7, I have the nuts, and I'm killing you because you wasted your whole entire turn on one play. So you have to be really smart when you play against these decks. Now, Dragoncraft, on the other hand, is definitely the elephant in the room, like I've said in previous videos, that Dragoncraft is just faster than you. It takes you time to set up. You can definitely remove their stuff, but you gotta remember, they're faster than you. They have a 4-drop Forte card that when you evolve it has Aura. So you're taking 7 to the face. Even though in Statue Self helps you heal for 10, there's no way you're recovering like you should be whenever you get swung by on Forte. And then they have Shenlong in the form of healing. So Forte's just fast. Well, not Forte, but Dragon's just faster than you. So you can't really remove everything. I mean, they are a little slower, but they're just fast. And I would really want to count Dragoncraft as an aggro deck. So let's go ahead and do an overview for Heavencraft. So Heavencraft is one of those decks where it's like, hey, you know, even though you're a gas on the pedal, you're going to do what you want to do. That's fine. I'm going to remove things. It's not going to be fun for you. I'm going to have fun because I'm making sure you're not having fun. And, you know, I can respect those type of decks because it's a control deck that stays in control and it doesn't lose its way. And you have a huge finisher and there's not a lot of decks that can stop you. So now, you know, we do a great system for everything we do. And I would give Heavencraft a big old S. S-class deck, 100%. It can shut down decks. It does have its counterparts to bad things, but you can always find a way out. If you just learn the matchups, it's very strong. It does what it needs to do. It shuts down aggro. It can beat mid-range, and it definitely has a chance against control decks just in case they don't see what they need to. Because, you know, it's RNG. It's RNG sometimes, but there's a lot of skill put into it too. So, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I appreciate you watching. I hope you guys tune into the next one, and we're going to be moving on into the next section. Love you guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you're safe in doing what you're doing tonight, and safe what you're doing for the rest of the year. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I gave you all my love, baby, my heart is cold when you're around. You warm it up, liquid gold, baby, yeah, you warm it up, liquid gold, baby, and my affection, all that paper you wasted. Take my love.